Hey everybody, I have not done an update for a while. I figured I would go ahead and do one today. One of several hopefully coming up. Um, for those of you who know where I live, you know what I've been going through. For those of you who don't know where I live in the Houston, Texas area. So, as you've seen on the news over the past week, those of us here on the Texas Gulf Coast have gone through some serious shit. And I assure you, it is not just Houston. I know they're really showing a lot of footage of flooding in Houston, and the flooding in Houston is catastrophic. But man, this disaster spreads from Corpus Christi into Louisiana, and not just along the coast, but quite a bit inland. We live in a town just southeast of Houston, about 7 miles from Galveston Bay. I have friends that live as far as 50-60 miles inland that had flooding in their areas. So it's not just the coast, it's not just Houston, it's not just Port Arthur, it's not just Corpus Christi, it's a lot of communities inland too. Let's see. We came through it better than most. The town we live in did have some flooding, but we have a very good flood drainage system in the town, and for the most part it did its job, although the rainfall was so heavy at times it was just it was overwhelmed, and there was flooding around town. Our neighborhood was about half flooded. The houses on our street, probably a half to 2/3 of them had standing water throughout their entire houses. And then of the other third to a half of the houses, several of us had little bits of water seeping in here and there. And the only thing that kept our house from flooding was the fact that I sandbagged my back door. Our back of our house is lower than the front of our house. And even in a really heavy rainstorm, our back patio tends to get water up on it. And I knew any significant rain and it could risk coming in the back door. So I sandbagged the back door with some sacks of potting soil, and that actually held back the water because I looked out the window and the water was up against the sandbags, and had they not been there, it would have come in the back door. We got water about halfway up our garage. No real damage done there. It's a garage. We had a little bit of water come in one of the back bedrooms, but it had a tile floor. So it was the worst of the flooding we got. The back door onto the back patio was maybe the equivalent of someone spilled a glass of water on the floor. That was it, so we just mopped that up and then sanitized the floor. And the computer, or what we call our computer room, it was more like someone spilled a pitcher of water, but again, no standing water flooding. We just mopped it up and sanitized the floor. Water came very close to coming in the front door, and had it come in the front door, the house would have just flooded completely. And we would have had a couple inches, like 2 to 6 inches of water in the house. The water came across our street, all the way up our yard, across the little sidewalk in front of our porch, up onto our porch, all the way across our porch to the house, and it started rising up the threshold of the front door, and it stopped like 2 or 3 inches, like this much, above our threshold. So had we received a few more inches of water, we would have had water come in the front door, and then because the house slopes towards the back, we would have had some serious flooding. As it is, like I said, we just had a little bit of water to clean up. Our property management company is going to be sending someone out to do a walkthrough and assess any potential flood damage. But because there are so many homes that had so much worse than us. We're low on the priority list, but it doesn't seem like there was much damage done at our house. I have friends that had to crawl out on their roof and be rescued by boats. So I've lived in the Houston area for almost my entire life, aside from 1 year. So I've lived in this area for 46 years. And I've never seen flooding like this. I lived through Hurricane Alicia. I lived through Tropical Storm Allison. I lived through Hurricane Ike. And I lived through a series of 3 serious floods from hard rain events over a few year time period. And nothing like this. Even Tropical Storm Allison, which was considered the biggest flooding catastrophe, came close to this. Areas that didn't flood for any of the stuff flooded for Harvey. The street I live on was pretty much considered high ground and unfloodable until half the houses flooded. So, and again, like I said, the flooding was not just in Houston and the surrounding suburbs. It also extended miles and miles inland, 50 miles in some places, 60, just a lot of rain. Sorry if I'm out of it. I had the after all was said and done, and it's starting to calm down and everything, you know you're safe, your house is safe, all your friends made it through safe, all your family made it through safe, it's going to be okay, and then, you're in disaster mode, and then that, you breathe the sigh of relief, everything that was being held back just comes to the surface. And I had the mother of all panic attacks last night in the middle of the night, and so I had to take an anxiety pill and go back to sleep. And then this morning, well, I slept in because of the medicine. Around noon when I woke up, I started ramping up to have yet another monster panic attack, so I took another anxiety pill, and it stopped the attack from happening. But I'm trying not to sleep because I want to be able to sleep through the night tonight, and I know if I just go in there and sleep all afternoon, I'll be up tonight, and I just need to sleep. So, yeah. The statistics on this are going to be staggering. Trillions of gallons of water fell. Just to put it into perspective, where I live, our normal rainfall average for an entire year is like 57 inches. We got 55 inches of rain over a 4-day period. Okay. 55 inches of rain. That is... oh, man. That's like almost, 5 feet. So... I am 5'10". I'm 70 inches tall. That means, the amount of rain that we had would have been shoulder deep on me. And it's just, they said something about on the news earlier that the amount of rain that fell in this hurricane and storm event would flood the entire lower 48 states, like up to 0.17 inch. So the entire country could have been splashing around in one giant puddle from what fell here on the coast. The 55 inch in 4 days just blows my mind. It's unfathomable, fathomable that we could get that much rain that quick. It's just unprecedented. But we're okay. My friends and family are okay. So many people are not okay. And, we're all coming together to do what we can to help people. My town took in 700 evacuees who pretty much were hauled out of neighborhoods in Houston on boats with the clothes on their back and nothing else. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, possibly tens of thousands of people escaped with the clothes on their back, possibly one little bag of things. People come together really, really quick because they put out the call. We knew this group of evacuees were coming to our town to a shelter. 700 of them, men, women, and children. And they put out the call for donations, and they got so many donations so quick that they had to stop accepting donations because they were overwhelmed. So now they're rerouting donations to other areas, and there are churches and organizations that are taking these donations and organizing them and getting them ready to go where they need to be. Like, some areas need some shelters need a lot of this, some shelters need more of that, some shelters need this, and that way they can sort it and get the stuff to where it needs to go. We donated some things, some clothes. They had a real shortage of plus size clothes, so I had a bunch of clothes for when I cleared out my closet that I was gonna try to sell in a garage sale or donate, and I just bagged those up. And the person came by and picked up donations Tuesday. I gave them clothes. We had, at one point, we had 4 cats, and 3 of them died of old age. And Shadow, Tipsy, and Pixel just reached the end of their lifespan. And then Gizmo had gotten really, really sick, had a major health problem. We tried to save him, but he didn't make it. So we only have 1 cat now. We have Ella. And I had 3 extra crates, carriers, and 3 extra wire cage type crates. And I had some extra pet beds that we had washed and dried that we didn't need. So someone from a charity came and got those. They desperately needed stuff for displaced pets. So people that, managed to escape with their pets in their arms. Most of the shelters, I believe, will accept your pets nowadays, but the pets need to be crated if at all possible. So they were desperately in need of crates and cages and pet things. So we passed along some pet stuff, passed along some clothes. We ended up not losing water. Our water never was unsafe to drink and bathe and clean in, so we didn't have to really use our bottled water. And I had bought extra bottles of hand sanitizer, just basic hand sanitizer to keep clean with, and things like antibacterial wipes, and a bunch of baby wipes, like, not baby powder scented. I don't like the smell of baby powder, baby product stuff. It kind of makes me nauseous, but they make like green tea and unscented and lavender, and I had a bunch of green tea baby wipes that when it gets hot you can just use to wipe down with. And I expected us to lose power and to have some miserable days, but I had a whole bunch of those green tea baby wipes, so I donated those. And some other storm stuff that people could use. So that seemed to be that. This is going to be a long, 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 long recovery. I saw in the news something about sorry, my aphasia is kicking in from stress. My aphasia has been worse than normal all week. Corpus Christi all the way up through Houston, all the way over to Beaumont and Port Arthur. They and then inland. They are estimating hundreds of, not even hundreds of thousands, a million. I saw a guy on the news talking a little while ago that when it's all said and done and all the damage is assessed, he is confident that there will be a minimum of 1 million homes and businesses with flood damage. So this is going to be really, really difficult. Stores, in the areas like my town didn't flood bad. Most of our stores didn't flood, but for days you couldn't get in and out of the area because the highways and the main roads were flooded and impassable. So the stores are running out of products. But trucks are getting in now, and they're starting to restock well. But I mean, as of a day or two ago, a couple days ago, there were no stores open, and if the ones that were, they had limited stock, and some of them were letting a few people in, then a few people out. Cash only, just a really difficult situation. What we take for granted when we go to the grocery store: bread, milk, eggs, lunch meat, things like that. Fresh produce. Nobody has that kind of stuff, or at least they didn't. They're getting it in now, but it interrupted the supplies. Restaurants, can't get their supply trucks in, so they. A lot of them opened as soon as they could and sold what they could off their menus to use up the food they had in stock because, A, it's going to go bad and, they can't lose the money throwing it away. B, their servers need the tips and need the work. The kitchen staff needs the work. These people that work hourly, they need the work, and the owners of the small businesses need to be open, but they're limited on supplies, so they're doing what they can. That's about it for my town. I'm starting to ramble. I'm trying to keep this at 20 minutes. But yeah, just what you see on the news is a fraction of what's really going on. They're showing the dramatic boat rescues. They're showing the dramatic reservoir and dam issues and the chemical plant fire and what they're showing is real and it's horrible and it's tragic, but they're not showing everything. And for every water rescue you see on TV, there's probably 10 happening that they're not showing. For every flooded neighborhood they're showing on TV, there's probably 10 they're not showing. And while they're focusing on certain towns, Houston, we're the 4th largest city in the country, and to have this degree of flooding in one of the most major cities in the nation is headline news no matter where you go. But also be aware that communities outside of the city are flooding and in the same situation. There are communities out north of the city, west of the city, east of the city, northwest, northeast, that all have a tremendous amount of flooding, and they're not really getting much on the news. But trust me when I say what you're seeing on the news is only a fraction of what's happened here. So like I said, I don't understand why they're not showing a lot of these other areas, because the pictures I've seen that locals have been posting on social media are just as compelling as what you're seeing on the news, and it's just it's so farther reaching than anyone could possibly imagine unless you're here. So that's it. I'm coming up on 20 minutes and I'm going to end it. It's just, I'm safe. My family's safe. My friends are safe. A lot of people are not safe. But this is just something that's gonna be going on for a while. So I'll be back again to do different updates with other things, but for now I just wanted to talk about what I've been going through this week. Bye.